The Maldives, the ultimate bucket list vacation destination. But Asia's smallest country is also a battleground for the region's two biggest economies, China and India, both vying for influence in the middle of the Indian Ocean, a key route for maritime trade.
We should have the right to dictate our future.
The Maldives' new President Mohamed Muizzu finds himself on another front line, fighting climate change. The rising sea levels is threatening to swallow up one of the lowest lying nations on Earth.
In many islands, we have to protect the beaches, and that's something we didn't want to do, but we have to do it.
Now Muizzu, with a little over a decade of politics under his belt, needs to navigate the choppy waters ahead. There is no denying the Maldives has a bounty of natural beauty. But the future of this archipelago, which sits in the Indian Ocean, is tangled up in messy political posturing by Beijing and New Delhi. Both see strategic importance in the country, which is made up of 1,200 islands, extending just 500 miles from north to south. That's less than the length of California. The Maldives sits on a major shipping route for goods and for transporting oil from the Middle East, connecting the Strait of Hormuz, through which 1/5 of the world's daily oil supply passes, with Asia, making it a gatekeeper on the highway of global trade and making it an ideal location for military expansion, something some worry China would like to do. The country's newly elected President Mohamed Muizzu is known for being pro-China and is backed by a coalition seeking stronger ties with Beijing. He defeated the incumbent president, who adopted an India-first policy, by winning 54% of the vote. Now, the president, who earned his doctorate in civil engineering from the UK, needs to engineer new relationships as he works to strike a delicate balance between his rival neighbors to the north.
We don't want, our country to be, controlled by any other country. Just like any other independent country in the world, it needs to be fully sovereign. We should have the right to dictate our future, what's being done in our country.
So are you alluding to the fact that India is now controlling what is happening in the Maldives?
It's nothing to do with India per se. We are very close to India. The culture is very closely knitted with them. For example, I like Indian food a lot. I used to eat a lot of Indian food. We have a common culture together with India, Sri Lanka and all the neighbors. Nothing to do with India or any other country. It's just the foreign policy, the way it's been. I'm going to sit with the Indian government. Diplomatically, we are going to be able to solve any problems that we have, and I'm sure that's something that's going to be achieved very, very successfully.
Previous governments have either tilted towards India or China. Both have invested heavily in infrastructure in the islands, extending loans as they compete for influence. In 2018, Beijing upgraded a runway at the main international airport in Malé. It also completed a 1.3-mile bridge known as the China-Maldives Friendship Bridge, linking the capital city to the island of Hulumale. India has also been building, among the projects, a bridge of its own. Theirs is more than 4 miles long. It's become a tale of two bridges, and all amid a pile of debt and worries of how the Maldives will repay the two rivals. Mr. President, there are concerns about the Maldives' fiscal vulnerabilities. When you take a look at the debt level, it is about 115% of GDP, and that's very high for a small country with about 500,000 population. How do you ensure fiscal sustainability?
We need to expand the economy. We need to make sure that we do it fast. Of course, there's a lot of debt that needs to be repaid starting from next year, and it goes on, especially in 2026, there's a bigger debt to pay. We will, expand on our sovereign development fund to make sure that there's a good enough reserve when it comes to paying a bigger debt, bigger amounts of repayments.
Despite relying on both India and China for financing, during a heated presidential campaign, Muizzu accused incumbent Mohammed Solih of allowing India unchecked sway over the country's affairs, surrendering its sovereignty by allowing Indian troops to be stationed there.
Mr. President, you've said time and time again you'd like to boot out Indian troops out of the Maldives. What's thinking? Why?
Oh, well, the people of the Maldives do not want any foreign military presence in the country. It happens to be Indian foreign military presence here. And if it was any other country, the thought of the country, the nation will be the same. We don't want any foreign military goods to be here. And I've started negotiations already with the Indian government. I've had a few meetings already with the Indian High Commissioner, and it's very successful.
India, on its part, says the military presence is largely to assist with emergency operations in the Maldives.
We're talking about a troop consisting of about 75 people. How does their presence impinge on domestic affairs?
Well, if it is only 75 military personnel here, why can't they be replaced by 75 civilian pilots, civilian assistants, and so on? It's just only 75. So it's very simple to just, address the concerns of the public.
Might India see it as a pushback against India, a country that is important to the Maldives in terms of trade, in terms of economy, one of the biggest trading partners for the country?
I don't think it will be. I think, India, just like Maldives, needs the Maldives to be, we are supposed to be, able to thrive as a independent, prosperous country. For this region, for Indian Ocean region as well, a prosperous, peaceful, sovereign Maldives is very important. I'm sure that will be respected by India and all the other countries as well.
Some have suggested that the recent election was a referendum perhaps on China and India.
I don't think so it is, because by asking India to remove the Indian foreign military personnel here, it's no way indicating that I'm going to allow China or any other country to bring their military troops here. It's not that way. I don't want any foreign military presence from any country to be here. See, we want mutual relationship, bilateral relationship that's mutually beneficial to the countries that we are cooperating with in any project. China has helped us a lot, especially during the previous government's time, and I was one of the ministers involved in implementing so many of the projects that was funded by China. And during that time, we didn't have this concern of any military exercises or military personnel stationing here and so on. And I think that's the way forward. We don't want any of the foreign military influences to be here. But we want assistance, cooperation with all the countries, and that's the way I would like to go ahead. It's Maldives first. People have labeled me quite wrongly and pro-Chinese. I'm not pro any country except for Maldives, and that's, I think, something that can be easily understood.
If you believe the headlines in the media, you would think that you are pro-China, but now you're saying that you're not. I mean, how do you look at the relationship with China developing from here, considering that China has expanded its presence in the Indian Ocean, causing anxiety even to India, and some have suggested perhaps that China's string of pearls is a cause of concern?
See, Maldives will respect the international norms, international laws, and so on, and we will always be working closely with all the countries, and we don't want to be entangled with geopolitical rivalry or whatever it is between bigger nations, and we are too small for that.
Small and getting smaller. Coming up,
Climate change is a real issue.
standing on the front lines of global warming. When Latitude returns. It's hard to imagine standing here today that the scientists are right. At the current rate of global warming, 80% of the Maldives could be unlivable in less than 30 years. And by the end of the century, this country could cease to exist. It's of the highest priority for President Mohamed Muizzu, and one he believes the international community needs to step up to before his country is completely underwater.
Mr. President, let's talk about climate change. The Maldives is an archipelago, 1,200 islands, 80% of which stand pretty much less than 1 meter above sea level.
Yeah.
It is the lowest lying country at risk of being submerged. How are you planning to ensure its existence?
Well, climate change is a real issue, and I'm fully aware of this. And for me, in our government as well, give the topmost priority to address climate change. But for me, it's very important that we focus on adaptation. A lot of the government's budget is spent on adaptation projects, but what we need is international support. We see how much it's affecting our natural beauty, all the coral reefs and so on. We saw a few years ago 60% of the corals were bleached, and we didn't get enough international support. We were promised, but we didn't get, and we hope that we will get it soon. Locally, we are doing as much as possible. When we are building roads, building houses, shore protection projects, and so on. Millions and millions of our national budget is being spent on adaptation measures.
One of those measures also designed to reduce overcrowding in Malé, an artificial island rising out of the Indian Ocean. Hulu Malé, nicknamed the City of Hope, built over 6 feet above sea level, that's double where the capital city Malé sits. The goal, Hulu Malé becomes a fully functioning metropolis, complete with schools, hospitals, and public transportation. When all of these projects are completed, it is hoped that they'll house about half the population of the Maldives. That's nearly 250,000 people of the country's 500,000 permanent residents. Is Hulu Malé turning out to be what the Maldives wanted it to be? I mean, it is an artificial island, built 6 meters above ground. It's provided housing, jobs to the locals.
Hulu Malé is different because almost all the inhabited islands are natural islands. This is an artificial island for very basic need of housing, and it is a thriving city, part of Malé city. We need to create islands because, especially for Malé region, we need to create islands. And in my plan as well, it is there. We are going to reclaim more land nearby, but of course with the proper environmental impact assessments being done, very vigorous, very thorough studies being done to protect the reefs, protect the marine environment to the best ability as possible, and create this land that is very much needed for the people to get good quality housing.
And that new housing, like so many projects in the Maldives, is being funded by India and China. But the need for international assistance extends beyond these two countries when it comes to climate change, according to President Muizzu.
You talk about needing assistance. Can you quantify the amount? How much would you like to get from the international community to help you mitigate and fight climate change?
It's several $1 billion. We need a lot of assistance. We need assistance to protect ourselves. from tidal waves, tidal surges, and also this beach erosion phenomenon that's happening around the country. And I think when we talk about climate change, this is what's important. When we build our schools, hospitals, all these buildings, we are trying our best to make it, adapted to the changing climate.
Global leaders meet every year at COP, and if you listen to the UN, it says the trajectory is not looking good at all. How much progress do you think it has made?
Well, from all this perspective, not close to enough.
The problem is the rich nations and the smaller nations can't agree on how to fight climate change and how to fund climate change. Is there a compromise you're looking at? I mean, what is the solution going forward?
Well, we are one of the most vulnerable countries in this climate change debate. And I think help those most vulnerable countries first. It's as simple as that, I think. And there's so much finance going around helping very much needed countries, of course. And we also get assistance. I'm not saying that we are completely shut out. We need more help. And I'm sure that if that is being addressed that way, that the most vulnerable countries are prioritized first, I'm sure that the problem could be solved.
Problem solving while continuing to be a top tourist destination. Coming up,
relying on tourism is justified, but of course diversification is there.
Keeping the economy strong as the new president faces a post-pandemic revival ahead. When Latitude returns. The Maldives expects 2 million tourists in 2023. That's nearly 4 times the number of the small country's population.
Is those valuable tourism dollars that account for more than 60% of foreign exchange earnings a key driver for the economy hit hard by COVID-19? Its GDP growth rate slumped about 30% in 2020, the year the pandemic began.
Now, newly inaugurated President Muizzu has high hopes for his country's economic growth beyond tourism.
Is there an over-reliance on tourism for the economy?
Relying on tourism is justified, but of course diversification is there. Economic revival is very much depending on tourism as well. Expansion on tourism is something that we will do, and also expansion on fishery sector. And also, agriculture sector we want to expand on, especially to bring food security, to our for the people, especially for the local people, which could reduce the amount we spend on importing food products, especially the essential food products to the Maldives.
Some people may not realize that the Maldives is an upper middle class economy. Given the plans that you have, how might that translate to in terms of growth for the next 3 to 5 years? Can the Maldives perhaps sustain a growth of perhaps 6, 7, 8% or in excess of that?
I think it can, because...
what number would that be?
Well, I want to reach up to 8 or 9%, and I think we can do that. We need, our country to, work together with all the economic players around the world. We are already doing that, and I think we can expand on that. We could, increase the market, international market, where we could, export our finished product, value-added canned fish. I think there's a big opportunity for us, which needs to be tapped into in the fishery sector as well. So yes, there's a lot to do, and I think we can do it, and we can bring confidence back to our economy, revive our economy, and expand on it. And I think that's something that should be done, and we can do that.
Muizzu will tackle each of the challenges ahead of him with the First Lady Sajida Mohammed by his side. Dating in the modern age, then vetted by the First Lady's mother, The couple now faces a lifestyle change. Front and center in Maldivian politics, a far cry from when Muizzu drove his motorbike through the streets of Malé. And here you are, the First Lady. I'm just wondering how you feel about embarking on that journey. What challenges do you think you'll go through? How challenging might that be?
Yeah, because at this time I think it's very challenging for him as well. And then for me, actually the issue is, we have a lot of securities now. So the independence, I'm a very independent person. So for me, it's difficult.
Difficult and not without baggage. When it was last in power, Muizzu's party oversaw a wide-ranging crackdown on dissent that was criticized by Human Rights Watch and others. It's a legacy he'll have to reckon with.
You had a very successful career in engineering. Why make the transition from the public sector to public service?
Well, I always wanted to help people, to help the country as much as I could. I practiced engineering for several years before I got the opportunity to become one of the ministers several years ago. I took that opportunity because I wanted to give my maximum to the country.
How stable do you think your government will be? This is a country that's seen leadership changes, it's seen coups. Are you confident you'll see through your term?
Well, definitely, because I'm going to work with everyone. I'm not going to shut out political voices. Everyone will be able to express whatever they want. The rallies, the gatherings, whatever they want, I'm going to allow them to be, heard and work together, because this is a small country, and for us to be fighting internally without working for the betterment of the country is not going to help anybody.
You've shared with me that you wish your father was still around to see your political journey. Could you share with us now your relationship with your father and the inspiration that he is to you?
Well, he was a very successful person in the public domain, worked several years for the country. Yes, he always wanted me to do my best in whatever that I'm involved in. When I got the chance to go to the government for the first time, he was there, and I went to ask him for his approval. And he said, straight away, go ahead. And he was very happy with that.
As you embark on your presidency, what do you foresee as the biggest challenge you'll face? And also, what's your biggest hope for the Maldives?
There's a lot of challenges, but of course...
What's the biggest?
The economy needs to be tackled, and I think we can do that with working together with all the relevant parties. We have this issue of making sure that we are properly able to say that we are a sovereign, independent country. That issue, I think we can work together with India and all the other foreign parties, and I'm sure that also we can solve. We have been left on the trail for too long without being heard, without being cared about, and my government will be a caring government that's going to work with the people, for the people. They will be heard, they will be involved, and together I think we can achieve what's been not achieved so far.